Hello, TNA fam. How's it going? We are back at the Impact Zone podcast to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And we've talked a fair bit about some of the different aspects of how if TNA gets a good TV deal or a good streaming deal, etc., gets more money to help them build up themselves and potentially be a close rival to AEW, that there could be a lot of different aspects as far as building up both companies, to make both companies compete against each other, to kind of make both of them better off overall, because competition breeds creativity. It just breeds people to like wrestlers, and then that's mainly what we're going to be talking about here is wrestlers moving back and forth or having more options as to where they're going to go. Obviously, TNA is an option for wrestlers to come to, but I think a lot of people, and I think maybe in the last few years, it has suddenly started to become more and more of a destination. But for a long time, it was seen as, oh, well, basically just a super indie or whatever. And whatnot, because you could go there, but it wasn't really the big thing. And then AEW came out of nowhere, sort of thing. Well, not out of nowhere, but they exploded and really made a big splash in the wrestling industry, and they were the hot place to sort of go for a lot of talent. If TNA gets this deal done, has more money to work with, and that sort of thing, that not just competing for indie talent, but competing for ex-WWE talent will be a lot bigger of a thing. Because even if you say, oh yes, TNA might not be able to offer the same amount of money, well, they've been able to acquire quite a few people that AEW has not been able to acquire with less money and less things. The schedule or something specific about TNA specifically draws some of these people into TNA, so there's always that other option. And I do think that, again, we've talked about it probably 1,000 times, but AEW is very bloated right now, and TNA is not as bloated. It is bloated in some ways, but it's also very thin in some ways. They, like I said before, they kind of need another TV deal, or they need their Explosion TV deal to be a lot better, or they need to work on that specific show to make that better or whatever. But, that is what they are planned to do, whatever. And if they have more money, they can bring in more talent. And if they bring in more talent, or even if they can, contract negotiate for more talent, it will become a bigger and better thing for wrestlers and for the fans. Because, hey, you've got two companies that are closely bidding for you if you're not going to WWE. If you just came from a WWE, or even if WWE says, hey, you're not ready for here yet, or we don't want to take the time to invest in you in our developmental system or our WWID system, or even if we do want to invest in you in some ways in one of our developmental systems, well, you can still go to TNA if you really want, or whatever. You can still go to AEW. That's, no slight on you. We don't have a working agreement with them, but if they just offer you the best deal and you say, hey, look, I just went there because, hey, they offered me a good deal. And if you guys turn around and say, hey, when you think I'm ready, hey, I'll come. And I know Triple H has said this as well. It's a lot of people call WWE to say, hey, can I come over there or whatever and work? I think, the people that are dude, if they want me, they'll call me. I'm here, I'm doing my own thing. I think that that's what you should do. I think you should be trying to go out there and be successful and just be happy with what you do. Because WWE may never call. Like, even AEW and TNA may never call. You don't know if you're ever going to get those opportunities. You are lucky to be in any company for the most part, wherever you are. And, you should take that and say, hey, look, this is where I'm at and I'm happy with that. I would love to have more, obviously, but, I'm here and I'm doing my thing and I'm living my best life being the wrestler that, I dreamed about being as a kid. And if those, if WWE calls or TNA calls or AEW calls, of course I'm listening. And, if they offer me the right deal and I can get over there and wrestle for them or whatever else it is, hey, that's what I'm going to do. So I just think that these deals, they have to go through. I think they're going to go through, but they have to go through, because if TNA doesn't get more money, doesn't get more ability to bring in more wrestlers or to, even bid for more wrestlers in some regards, it's going to be bad for them, because yes, they'll get one person here or there or what have you, whatnot, but you need more than that. You need to bring in a lot of people. And yes, a lot of people who have big contracts like the Hardys. I know Nick Nemeth kind of more on a handshake agreement. Mustafa Ali, I know he's on a pretty big deal. But there are a few other people that are on a fairly big deal as well. Like Moose is on a fairly big deal and whatnot. So there are a few people that are there that, have a decent or fairly decent deal in TNA. A lot of the legacy or legacy-like acts kind of have that deal because, well, they've kind of, in some ways or rather, they're worth it. They've earned it because, they can draw in people and can put butts in seats, for the lack of a better term. And I think, again, I don't know how much they paid Team 3D for their services at Bound for Glory, or how that worked or whatever. But obviously they had some money to bring them in and to, to wrestle for that match. So again, they've obviously still got money to be able to spend, and they've got Elijah and a few other people that are there that are obviously on higher deals than just regular work rate deals, though I think a lot of people have decent deals, but it's just some of those other talents certainly would have much bigger deals because of who they are and what they kind of can bring to the table and whatnot. So, but yes, if TNA, and I believe that they will be able to get more money into the system, and that's the thing, wrestling is a very much business that you have to keep investing back into. It certainly can make money, but the only time that you can make money with it is if you invest in it. It's a very cyclical sort of business where you've got, the more you put in, the more you kind of get out. You can't really get anything out of it if you refuse to put anything more into it. And maybe that's where Anthem's at. Maybe they don't have any more money to put into it. And hey, I know that they've said, hey, it's not profitable or whatever else and all of this, or it hasn't drawn a profit or whatever it is, and that sort of thing. And there are actually however many millions of dollars in debt or whatever it was. But, that's from historical, So, and they've been getting better over the last few years in that. So, and they wouldn't be saying, hey, we need 10K or we need whatever, we need 10 million or whatever it was, if that wasn't going to cover the expenses. But they've got to realize in some ways that's not going to cover the expenses, and they need 100K, maybe a couple million, to get them, really great talent and to get them really great, equipment. And, because you need some of the best equipment that you can get. You need the best production team that you can get. You need the best wrestlers that you can get. And like, as I've said, AEW has way too many people, even for, I don't know how many, is it 4 or 5 shows that they have now? But they have way too many people, and they're like, they don't even use half of the people that they've got. Yes, TNA doesn't use everyone that they've got, but still, they could use with more talent, especially in certain areas. Like I said there the other day, talking about sort of having to talk about each division and saying, well, where are they at right now? The tag team division needs a lot of people. The heel singles division needs a lot of wrestlers. The heel tag team division needs a fair few wrestlers in TNA. Heel X division guys, and some babyface X division guys, So you need a fair few people to help fill out that roster, and you need to be able to retain some of the talent, if not all of the talent you've kind of got on your roster. We just saw, in the last few months or whatever it was, Wes Lee from WWE got released, and I think there was a few other people from WWE got released. But it'd be great if they could bring him back in, because he would fit right back into natural storylines that are going on right now, or that they could easily put together right now. So it wouldn't be a hard ask for them to be able to, get those guys from where they're at to wherever they need to get them. So it's just a question of being able to afford those talents. And you obviously can't outbid WWE, but and maybe you can't outbid AEW in terms of pure dollars if you only have 10K and they have 300 something K or whatever it was, I can't remember. But again, they've been able to get certain talents because of certain things, of saying, well, we can offer you this here, we can offer you that there, less dates here, and we'll let you work the indies, or we'll let you have a flexible schedule, or whatever else, and that sort of thing. So I do think that is, that there are perks to working for TNA, and, it is right now, it might be only, once a month or twice a month or whatever it is, but soon it will be like every weekend, at least, or roughly, every Thursday, or every Wednesday, maybe, I don't know. But again, I wouldn't love it if they would go to Wednesday. If they go to Wednesday, that's their decision. And I do think that, again, that whole competition thing, that's when you've got to start saying, well, if you want us to go to Wednesday, we have to compete with AEW. So we have to have the same level of production. We have to have the same, level of money. We have to have the same level of wrestlers and production crew and trucks and everything else, and merchandise and promoters and just everything. You just need everything to be kind of on par. You cannot sit there and say, oh, well, we're, they've been running at a negative to AEW for the last 5 or 6 years or whatever it's been. So obviously they can survive throughout more years doing the same thing, but that's not what you want to do. You don't want to just survive. You want to, thrive, and you want to dominate as much as what you can. And I don't want to make this seem like I'm AEW hater or whatever, but AEW has made a lot of missteps in the last few years, and they're sort of on the way down. I do actually hope for the best for them in many ways, and I hope that they can rebound, because TNA went through a lot of the same things that AEW has gone through, and now the shine has kind of gone off the bloom, so to speak, or what have you. And now people are starting to go, okay, are we hardcore going to keep, supporting this wrestling company. Yes, but they've got to be doing the right thing. They've got to be pushing some of the talent and whatnot, and they can't be just like, oh, yeah, we put on good matches and whatnot. You need more. You've got to be using some of these guys. And yes, some guys or gals or what have you aren't made to be the main event, the main structure, what have you, top guy or gal or what have you. But you can't just sit there and say, oh, well, we have nothing for this person. Well, why'd you have them on your roster? Why are you paying them then? Let them go. Let them go to WWE. Let them go to TNA. Let them go do something else. Because if you're not using them and you don't really care, then it's like, well, why have them? Same for WWE. Same thing. They've done some things with some people, and I felt like, oh man, what are they doing with this person? And maybe they didn't know what they were doing or whatever it was, but still, they're WWE. They should know. Why are we hiring Andrade? And then we're going, oh shit, why did we hire this guy? Oh yeah, because he's married to Charlotte or whatever. Maybe that was it, or I don't know. Like, and then when that fell apart, it was like, oh well, we don't have anything for him. So I don't really know, but still, like, that's the thing. Like, relationships and that sort of stuff shouldn't influence somebody's firing or hiring. Like, if you didn't have anything for him, then you shouldn't have hired him. You should have just said, okay, well, we're not really that interested. We don't really know what we'd do with you. We can't really see a space for a character like you in our company or whatever. So yeah, sorry, but but that sometimes people make mistakes, and that's how it works. But again, like, just saying, like, maybe that was the issue there. But again, like, you could point to a lot of people that are in that similar position from either company or whatnot. But still, like, it is what it is. So TNA have got to hopefully pull themselves up by that strap and hopefully make wrestling more interesting, because it will only be more interesting if, like, even if it's even if it's just 10K and a better deal, like that stepping stone, like, could get them to the next stepping stone and the next stepping stone and the next stepping stone, so they could all fall like dominoes slowly. So they could get another deal in another year, and that could be like 100K or whatever or whatnot. So again, you've got to start taking those little steps sometimes. Sometimes it's not just, here's this big giant leap or what have you. And again, look, professional wrestling is very profitable. Like, WWE is one of the most profitable businesses in the world. So, and like, yes, you can continue to make profit in that business, but if you invest in other businesses like TNA or AEW, you could start saying, okay, well, let's try to, beat that and make, even more profit, by, having, that competition and whatnot that's been missing in the last, or sort of missing in the last 20 odd years of professional wrestling. TNA's kind of been there, AEW's kind of been there, but like, now if we really invest money into it, and we'll see, like, okay, let's put TNA on the same level, not the same streaming service, but on the same level, like, if you find, or almost the same, at least, as close as possible. If WWE is like on a 22 million, streaming service, right? Well, we have to find the next biggest streaming service so we can be on almost equal par, so that we can get as to many eyes as possible. Same for TV deals. We have to be on the next best network that we can be on, so that we can catch as many people that want to tune into what we're doing as possible, because that's the only way. The only way is to get onto those as big of networks as what you can. The only way to get more interest is to get the biggest sponsorships and the biggest deals that you can done. So yeah, it's Coke versus Pepsi type thing. Like this is the market. You've got to have competition. It only works when people are like this versus this, and they're kind of equal in some ways, or seemingly equal. People won't buy into it as much, and they can't buy into it as much if it's not accessible to them, if it's not, invested enough in to actually get them to know where it is, when it is, how to get there, all the things, what the card is, what they should be paying attention to. And yes, like the WWE relationship has helped in some ways with that, but you can't rely on that forever. Like this deal's only another year in the works. Maybe it'll get renewed, maybe it won't, but you shouldn't rely on it, because again, you can't rely on that, and you should be in competition. Friendly competition, yes, with WWE, friendly competition with AEW, but this is business in many ways. You got to look at it like that. We're in it for us because this is our business. You can go to AEW and work there. AEW people can come over here and work here, but at the end of the day, we've got to look out for ourselves because we are our own entity. If AEW had their way, they'd put us out of business. If WWE had their way, they would put us out of business if it wouldn't hurt them. Same here. If we could put them out of business, we would, if it wouldn't hurt us. So, we need to all be in competition against each other so that, the wrestling fan has more interest and more intrigue in the business, and it is a hotter, more engaging, like back and forth of, argumentative, like saying, oh, this person could go there, or this person could go here, or whatever else it is. It feels like there is like, AEW offered this, TNA offered that, WWE offered that. They're all similar deals, like, or fairly similar deals in terms of money or whatever, but WWE is the biggest platform in the world, no matter what, and a lot of people want to go there. But then again, TNA has something to offer, and AEW has something to offer. So there's positives and negatives and whatnot in each, Maybe if you go to WWE, or AEW, you'll be lost in the shuffle or whatnot. You might go to developmental for 2 years or whatever it is, or 3 years or whatever it is, and you might not get to the main roster. You might go to TNA and be like, oh yeah, but two people and a dog kind of know I'm here, type thing. Because right now, that's where it kind of is. It's like they're trying to make as much noise as possible, and with the WWE help, they are making more noise, but for the last few years, they haven't been, a lot of people haven't really paid much attention to it. So they only sort of tune in every now and again. But that's the casual viewer for you. They only really tune into the big stuff. So you've got to make more big things, more quickly and whatnot. So sometimes I complain about the smaller stuff being too small or whatever. But sometimes there is still some really good stuff, but it is with 1 month or less build, it's it's not nearly as good as what it could be. Sometimes rematches or whatever or whatnot can work or whatnot. Depends on what you're kind of trying to do or where you're trying to go or what have you and that sort of thing. Or what the feud is, or what the story is, or whatever, where they started, or where they're going, and, is there another match? Is this a trilogy, or whatever else it is, hopefully, like the Mustafa Ali, Santana rivalry. It's probably still got some gas. Like I said before, it's probably still got some gas in there. So you might as well go back to the tank, but you can't go back to it too early, sort of thing. So, but again, that's where, like, if you eventually go back to it and you put the belt on Ali, you can't just say, okay, well, we're going to ride Ali's train for a little while. You know, you've got to say, okay, cool, we're going to ride the Ali train. Who's his opponent's going to be? Obviously, you've got Santana there. So, you know, but you can't, like, just be like, oh, Santana's our answer. You've got to be like, okay, how have we built everyone else? So you need to always be investing time and energy and effort into these other guys and gals. So it's not just about the money that comes in. It's about the time, the training, you know, getting these guys and gals to work on their characters and connect with the audience, or work on their wrestling, because their wrestling is mostly pretty good for most of the wrestlers, but it's just that connection that sometimes is hard to put your finger on, and, you know, hard to actually get right, that, you know, makes or breaks a wrestler or a story or what have you. So that's also something that, you know, they need to work with. And, like, it's been a difficult set of circumstances over the last few months, because they've lost Marsha Slamovich and they lost Ash by Elegance, two of their biggest, like, knockouts. So they've really got to kind of have their knockouts division from a reset. And, like, they've got a few other knockouts there that are kind of bigger names in some ways or some forms, and have that character and have that connection, but they're not the wrestlers, I think, that they're looking to build the division really around or whatnot. So, or that they're, I don't know what you would call it, like, not selfish, I guess, to take the title or to use the title, like Tasha Steelz and Alicia Edwards. They seem like they're pretty, like, we're cool with whatever position, you know, type thing, people, where they're like, yeah, this is fine. I don't need to be the champion or whatever. I'm fine just doing my own thing and having decent feuds or what have you. So that's cool for them or whatever. But, you know, there are obviously people that want more and whatnot. And you could always go back to them and just say, look, we really need you to hold this title. This will really help us out. This is what we need, you know, so we need you to be the champion. So I'm sure they wouldn't say no to that. But anyway, guys, yeah, I think that, you know, being able to bid for talent is something that really is necessary in this, because, and the money to do so is so necessary. And there are obviously other perks and privileges and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if you can't offer somebody something that, you know, they would go, oh yeah, that's a actually really good, considerable deal in comparison to this other deal, you know, it's like, well, why would they ever choose you? Like, there are some people that would choose you, but there's less likelihood that they would, because it's like, dude, why would they choose you if you're not going to be able to offer them something that's akin, or at least somewhat on the same level of, like, what AEW would like allow for them, or what WWE would allow for them. So again, you've got to set yourself as a destination, not just, you know, this is a waypoint to WWE or this is a waypoint to AEW. Yes, it can be a waypoint to WWE or AEW or whatever, but so can AEW be a waypoint to TNA or what have you, or WWE can be a waypoint to TNA or what have you as well. Because we've seen wrestlers come from WWE. We've seen wrestlers come from AEW to TNA. So it is feasible that more people can come from those brands to TNA to be successful. So, but anyway, guys, I'm sure you guys all get that kind of idea, but it's important to kind of talk through it for the people that kind of don't. Or even just go through it and think through it and say, hey, you know, these are the important points for this. But anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this one, and I hope you join me again in another one.